Hi, friends.
Hello. Welcome back. We're here today with episode 97. And first, before we dive in, we're going to read an awesome review from one of you.
Yes, so thank you. Oh, sometimes my computer...
It's so weird.
Yes, let me see if I can open it back up.
We had one all opened and ready, and then it went away.
Oh my
It's like as soon as we click on them, they disappear. It's crazy.
Yes, and then when I close it and open it back up,
so give us like one quick little second, because we liked this review.
Oh no, we'll have to share this one next time.
I'll find it.
Okay.
Maybe.
That's funny. Okay, while she's talking and looking it up, we just want to thank you guys so much for leaving us the 5-star reviews and your awesome comments. It helps people to find us. So super thankful. We love reading your kind words. So you have to go down. Oh, that's funny. Somebody actually posted to me the other day that it on iTunes that the podcast doesn't go like in descending order.
Oh, really?
Like it starts at number 1. So
okay,
sorry
I think I've got it. Is it this name? Yes. Alrighty. This is from Darbounce. I like your name. Okay, it says, I have loved listening to this podcast since shortly after they began doing it. It quickly became one of my favorite homeschool podcasts. I feel like I'm friends with these beautiful ladies, though we've never met. Maybe we can someday. I love their Latter-day Saint LDS perspective, though anyone can listen, not just other Latter-day Saints. I love the friendship, respect, and positive dynamic between Meg and Karen. I love the practical advice. I love the variety of topics. I love the encouragement and motivation I feel after listening. I recommend this podcast frequently to other homeschool moms, particularly those just getting started with homeschooling. Their tagline absolutely describes this podcast. This is your manual to becoming the amazing homeschool mom you were called to be. Thank you, Karen and Meg, for mentoring your fellow moms on this homeschooling journey.
That is so sweet.
Lovely.
Okay, I didn't even tell Karen, but I'm going to do another giveaway with my calendar for this
surprise
review. So send us a DM, and I will ship you out the family planner, the big calendar. So thank you so much. That is just the sweetest review.
You're so kind. Thank you.
Yeah. So send us a DM and call it to Homeschools with your address, and I'll get that shipped out to you. And all of you listening, thank you so much. The podcast is just continuing to grow. We appreciate that. It helps so many people by sharing it. So thanks so much.
Yes, thank you. So we're going to dive in now to our topic, which is detox from public school.
This was a reader request.
It was. Yes.
So we are
so
always
detox
happy.
Sounds like this terrible, awful thing, right?
From alcohol.
Right? Or drugs or whatever. Sugar. That's one I frequently do. I seem
Apparently,
to have
I just went straight to alcohol.
do it again and again. But yeah. So detox. Why would you have to detox from public school?
And I thought we had a whole episode dedicated to it, but apparently we've just kind of mentioned it.
We've mentioned it a few times, but we've never actually done an episode. So I was
glad,
for this request. We always love your requests, so leave them if you have any others. Anyway, why would we detox from public school? What do you think there?
Oh, geez. I think to get that mentality out of your system.
Yeah, that for me, I felt like I had to detox before starting homeschooling. Does that make sense? Because there is this whole mentality we have in our minds, and I was a public school teacher also before homeschooling my kids. And so I had, I grew up as a public school kid, and then I taught it. So I had to do this whole mental shift in my mind.
So it's not just your kids, even though a lot of times people think it's the kids needing some detox, which maybe they do, but also
it's
mom.
It's us just as much, I think.
Yes, because most of the moms here haven't been homeschooled. Mm-hmm. And even in our homeschool group, I can only think of two who have been homeschooled.
Oh, yeah, two. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, most of us haven't. And because homeschooling was not as common when we were growing up. My mom always says she would have if she knew that it was really a possibility to not turn out weird kids.
Yeah. But I have found the quickest, and if you are looking for the quickest way to get burned out in homeschooling, is try to create public school at home.
Definitely.
And that is the best formula. If you're like, I want to get burned out and hate every second of this.
Plan it to the minute.
Yeah.
And sit at a desk.
Do you remember that when COVID started and people who didn't homeschool were trying to be helpul
and putting out the schedules? And all of us homeschool moms were just laughing. We're like, just wait, sweetie, just wait. Don't do that.
And they all threw them away. Within a week or two, they were like, this is madness. I'm like, you think?
Yeah, it doesn't work. Homeschool just does not work like a school setting. It doesn't, it can't, it won't. And so don't expect it to. That's number one.
Just don't expect it. I even read a teacher who like had been teaching for a long time, and just like her perspective of this, and was like, no, it does not work. Like I cannot bring a classroom to my children.
No.
Like bells and whistles and all that.
So that's the biggest thing. Your routine, everything's just going to be really different than you think it will be, because you're not recreating public school. You're teaching just your kids, and it's very different than a school full of kids.
Well, it was like reading a parenting book. Like, okay, this is what it's got to be.
Right.
Like the baby has to sleep like this, and the baby has to do this, and then you get the baby, and you're like, what?
The baby's not doing it right.
Yeah. They said you have to sleep on your back. I'm like, a lot of my babies had to be
Why is
tummy
this baby
sleepers.
crying this way? That's not what the book said.
Yes.
Why is he crying?
I did exactly what the book said, and my baby's freaking out.
Yeah, we're all wired differently.
Yeah.
So I've heard a lot of moms talk about when they pull their kids out, the kids have a really hard time too, because school is different than their teacher did it. My teacher did it this way. My teacher taught math this way. My teacher this. And so kids will struggle with that transition too. So a really important thing is, this detox phase, or people call it deschooling or detoxing from public school. And the reason is just you kind of have to break out of that and recognize and realize that it's all just going to be different.
Well, it's like you're breaking down a building, like your home is dilapidated and falling apart, and instead of patching it, you're breaking it down and building it up with a strong foundation.
Yeah. And you have to just kind of be okay with the fact that we're going to learn differently than we did in school. The books you're going to use are different. The methods you're going to do are different, because you're not probably a trained teacher. And so you don't have to be
either.
Right. You're not trying to teach crazy crowds. It's just your kids,
which is its own crazy crowd.
Often it is. It's true.
Well, I've heard, so Karen's kids have always been homeschooled, and my oldest did a year of private school for kindergarten. So we didn't necessarily have
we haven't
ton
done
of
this
detox phase,
but we feel like we understand it. I mean,
I've asked different friends who
talked to a lot of moms about
later. And so a rule of thumb, and this is not like a hard and fast rule, but a suggestion, I guess, is every year you were in school is a month of detox. But if you're starting with 10th grade, you may not want to wait 10 months.
A whole year of school off? No, probably not.
Right?
No, that's interesting. I've never heard that before. And I think that you can kind of take that.
Just knowing
your own
like
pace
there's
also, and whatever you feel is right. But do take some time to do school really differently. Like take some time to just let those kids unwind and lose that stress and anxiety and worry from like the tightly wound up schedule that they've been living, to just unwind from that and be okay.
And finding what they like.
Yeah, I think that's huge, because in public school you don't have the opportunity to really dig into what they're passionate about.
Yes, it's like, here, do this, what you're told.
Yeah.
And I'm not even judging the system, because I don't know a better way if you have that mass amount of children.
No.
So this is not a dig
judgment.
at public school, but you don't have to do that. You can totally just go with their interests and what they're passionate about.
Yeah, for sure. So I would recommend taking it a little easier on academics for at least a few weeks.
Yeah.
And do some unschooling.
Well, so I have some suggestions.
Yeah, I do too.
Okay, so like reading, making books fun, right? Doing read alouds, just exposing them to a lot of books. Going on walks and hiking, camping, being outside. All of those are outside. That's like
any kind of field trips too. Like,
yes, museums. I guess I didn't do that because I'm like, everything's closed right now as we're recording.
It's not all closed, actually.
I just hate masks.
I hate masks too, but you have to wear a mask.
Yeah, so I just keep going camping. Creating, so getting out art supplies, painting, all the building. Well, my boys sometimes will just hammer nails into wood.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
This is a good one, I think. Building relationships.
Yeah.
Like, how do we behave with each other? Those types of things. Learning habits. I know some people will just not do school at all and be like, we're just going to learn habits of cleaning our room and cleaning the house, because maybe if they were going to school, you were like, oh, you're in school all day and you have homework, you don't know how to clean the house or your laundry.
Kids that are in school is a lot, or like public school, they don't have the opportunity or the time to do as many chores around the home. And so I think that's actually a really big difference between homeschool kids, because when they're there all day, they're creating mess all day too, right? They're constantly messing and creating dishes and eating all day long. all the food. And so it's just a whole different feeling going on. And so your kids have to contribute more. And because they're home, you need to expect them to more.
Yeah, well, and I even think, because I've seen places where like, oh, all the laundry. And I was like, all the laundry? I don't do anybody's laundry. I don't even do George's
My kids do their
now.
laundry. George does it?
No.
Oh.
Tessie
like,
girl.
What?
Yeah, I wish. Because I work a couple days a week now. And so I hired my daughter Tess to take care of George. And part of her payment is doing his laundry, and then she teaches him to fold it and put it away.
Oh, I love that.
So,
that's great.
like, he has a house chore and all those things, and she's teaching him it.
I love that.
Another one I like is teaching obedience. Now, not dictatorship, which is very different. In my Mama's membership, I have a video on obedience that teaches like step by step of how to do obedience. So if you're in Mama's members, go check it out in the parenting section. If not, go join it, because that is an awesome step to have of like knowing how to teach obedience, because that's going to like save you headaches down the road. And it's like time to do school. It's like, well, no, you can't tell me what to do.
I think it's a really important time to just be super flexible too with your kids. And kind of let them have a say in their education and what they want to learn and how they want to do some things from the beginning. And often kids that have been public schooled at the beginning don't know how to do this. Like they're not really sure that they can, or they don't really know what their passions are or what they're excited about or how they want to learn it, because they've always just been told. And so give them a little time to explore that and figure that out. And I think that's really important.
Yes, and just getting outside and playing. Being out in nature, climbing trees, going on the parks, all those things.
Also, an important tip is to find some homeschool friends, because if you don't know anyone else that homeschools, you really.
Well, if you think about this with AA, the Detox, you have a mentor. Like any program that's like, hey, even like the sugar things, you had a group support. It's always, as you have a detox, you always have a support.
Yeah, it's so true.
That's a great one.
I think that's so important for kids, not only for moms to have a support, but for kids too as well, because if they don't know any other homeschoolers, they'll just think that their mom's crazy or that they're weird because they're the only ones doing that or the only ones like that. So if you can find some friends to connect with, it's going to really help a lot on everybody's journey.
Well, and I think about that, my son's best friend, they started homeschooling when he was in 4th or 5th grade, like his friend. And how awesome that's been, that like now here they are, a senior and a junior, and like being able to go the whole way through because they've had this best friend. And when people tease like, oh, homeschool, that's weird, it's like, I really don't care because I've got this best friend.
I'm cool, my friend's cool, we're good.
Yeah.
It helps them to just accept who they are and what's going on in their lives.
But I think too, have you noticed this? Like there's different values or whatnot, because we can be with our kids so intensely that sometimes it's easier to have our kids hang out with each other. Because I know at your house, or if your kids are at my house,
what would be going on in that home because of your value system.
Because I just found out the other day that one of my children was being exposed to a rated M video game. And I was like,
that's hard.
Like, this is really interesting to me. And so, like, there's something too with, like, because these other kids didn't think it's weird, because like in school they're all talking about it, and no judgment, it's just not for me.
Right.
And I don't want it for my children. So like having friends that also say like, oh, we don't play those games at our house either.
Right.
We also don't eat sugar at our house.
Yes. We also read beautiful books all the time.
Like our mom also makes us take a nature journal when we're hiking. I've tried nature journaling with them, but
my kids don't like it.
I know they want to jump off rocks.
Yeah, same.
You know what my new thing is for my son is to collect bones. We have a graveyard.
We've had some of that too.
We got a femur downstairs.
The deer. Ours are usually deer.
Yes, we found a graveyard of animal bones. So anyway, they would rather gather things than...
Same.
Yeah.
So and I think that's just as great.
Phase.
Yeah.
I think it's disgusting. But...
I don't like the bones, but I do not mind the rocks and the feathers and the flowers.
Oh, I don't mind that, but I really have a collection of bones downstairs.
I'm sorry. I made them put them outside.
Normally, I guess I just don't care.
We have several deer antlers. We have a lot of deer around.
Yeah, because you're right up on the mountain. That's awesome.
Yeah, they shed their antlers in our yard. And
that's different. Fun. This is a skull.
Oh. Yeah, we've had a couple of bones too, though, and that makes me kind of scared because you're like, what kind of mountain lion ate that?
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Oh, my
because those are there too.
So cool.
Yay.
So I think for that friend that place of like, oh, I'm not the only weird family that like we don't watch these types of movies, or like we don't do this, or we do this. But you know what I mean? Having
that's
support
interesting.
system
I
for
think
them.
that it's funny how I'm gonna try and phrase this. What I'm thinking, when you start homeschooling, your whole kind of purpose of your home life changes.
Yeah, it becomes really intentional.
It does. Everything you bring in and everything you have for your children suddenly shifts to like, what's the purpose behind this, and how is this going to better our family?
My daughter teases me about that.
And I'm so intentional about like the books I even bring in my home and the movies we watch and all these things, because I really want everything to better us.
Well, it's funny.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So it's been my 14th anniversary of no candy is this month.
That's amazing.
And so somebody was asking, well, what's your mom's favorite treat? And I was like, she's like, she doesn't eat treats. And she's like, well, what's a fun food? And my daughter goes, well, what's the purpose? Is there a purpose for this fun food? Because if there's not an intention for it, like, why is she eating it? I was like, oh, that's funny. That's what I was thinking too.
That's
like,
amazing.
I don't know.
I'm not that way with food. Food is fun.
Yeah, I actually struggle with under eating versus like I don't eat because I'm like, just keep going, go. But anyway,
that's funny.
Like I'm very intentional with fun food. Like, oh, this is a party. I will partake of pizza.
I love it.
Okay.
But yeah, and so that happens when you're homeschooling. You start creating a home life that is more intentional, and that was a big shift that happened to me. It took me a couple of years, but I remember learning about the term of twaddle books.
Yeah.
And I remember when I learned that, I was like, I'm going to go through my books. And I started going through my books and realized I had a lot of twaddle. And I was like, oh, this is kind of garbagey stuff, like cartoony things, things like that when they were little, I didn't really think about. I was like, well, they like Dora, so I'll buy them a Dora book or whatever, you know what I mean? And now I don't buy those kinds of things because I want them to learn to love beautiful literature. And I don't mind them checking them out of the library.
I was going to say, because like, there's no beef against Dora.
No, it's not.
But like, when you
that.
get a beautiful picture book, it's a night and day difference.
It is.
Do you know, like, the...
Well, even like the words that they use.
And...
It's the pictures, but it's also the type of language used. And I started learning that and recognizing that as I had more experience.
Dora's vocabulary is... It's a map! Like,
right. And there's all those kind of books that are like that.
Yeah.
And it's not something you even know to think about until you're immersed into more.
And what's interesting too, and you didn't come, one of our friends had a poetry night.
Right. Yeah.
And like a mother-daughter thing. And I love that so many of the kids were there, and it wasn't weird to the kids there that were reading poetry together with their moms. It actually was.
Our kids are all used to that.
So I think that how interesting that I didn't even think about that friend aspect for kids.
Yeah.
Of like, hey, we have the same.
I have friends that do the same things like we do.
Yeah. Okay, so when you are ready, then ease into homeschool, right? Maybe you like to cannonball into the ice cold water. I don't know. But Rome was not built in a day. And I love this. I read it in volume 2 of Catch the Vision of Marlene Peterson's book.
You're in 2?
I am currently
still in 1.
Oh,
good job.
I finished 1, and Krista, our mutual friend, came over the other day, and we just talked about all our things we highlighted.
It's so good, you guys. It's so good.
I'm like, oh, I found my people.
I know.
We've been friends. How long have we known each other? Did we decide?
It's so long. I don't even know.
Because I think Krista I've known as long as you, or I've known you longer.
Longer, because she wasn't till FLA, and we knew each other way
Okay,
before.
so maybe I've known her for 6 years.
Yeah.
6 or 7 years.
Anyway, long time.
She's fantastic.
So what is Anne of Green Gables, my bosom friends?
Oh, I don't know.
Anne of Green Gables?
I've never read it.
What?
I know,
You're
Karen.
missing out. Come on.
I actually
it's
on my nightstand. I'm flying out this weekend, and that's
you
my
have to read
airplane
that,
book.
and then tell me what you think of her bosom friend.
Her bosom? Are we bosom friends?
We are. We are.
So anyway, in the book, it was talking about a huge university did a study, like accredited universities, not like somebody's out in the back of the van in their backyard, right? Accredited universities went and studied children when they learned to read. And they took kids who learned to read at 5 and kids who learned to read at 7. And their reading was about the same. But when they were 11, kids who played longer had better comprehension than kids who read quicker.
Wow.
And so to me it was interesting because I wonder if at 7 they were like, I want to read. Like, I'm so excited. So it wasn't that they were out playing video games the whole time and they weren't just on a phone and watching YouTube. They were out playing and creating and doing all this stuff and like discovering their body and physics. And I think of all the times my boys, I don't know if your boys do this, just jump off stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Like they climb things just to jump off of them to see what will happen. And I always think, why? Like, I don't know about this.
It's boys.
Yeah.
There's
like,
no answer.
There is no answer. And so it's so awesome to like, you're okay. And then we could even probably do a study about kids who didn't learn to read till 10.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it's okay. And
And I've heard the same thing about math, where there are people that just don't do math until their kids want to know math.
Yeah.
And that one it's hard for me to do that. I'll be honest. It's hard for me.
Yeah.
I like structure. I like knowing my kids are learning at a normal pace. Like I like that. That's just me.
Yeah.
And so I think I'd be too afraid to ever do that. But I've heard the same thing, where if you don't do math until you want to know math, their learning explodes and they learn the same amount in like a very short amount of time that they would have in 6 years of math drills. And so I really think that is true, that as soon as you want to know something, you're going to put in the effort to know it. Like, for instance, right now, I just moved into a new house and it has this amazing yard. And I have bought all these garden books because I want to learn how to care for this yard, but I also want to turn it into a useful yard that produces things that we can eat. I'm putting a lot of effort into like creating edible landscaping and stuff like that. And I am pouring my heart into like learning all this stuff. And it's so engaging and fascinating to me because it's something that I can use right now. 5 years ago, I'd have been like, yeah, gardening, like it's cool, but like I don't have the time, whatever. But when you suddenly need it and want it, then you have the passion and drive to learn it.
Yeah, I'm stepping away from the traditional math more and more. One of my kids is like totally on board, who hates math. That one was like, I go, okay, let's step back. And we're just making math fun. So we are doing math, but like I went 5 grades below her of where like quote unquote should be, because she hated it so bad. I just wanted her to win.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden math is super easy and fun every day. Like I know it. I get them all right every time.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And I thought, oh, how funny. Like it's basic addition, subtraction, timesing, and dividing. And she's like, I'm killing it.
That's
Like,
awesome.
you totally are killing it. So I don't know. How funny, like even us this far in still need to get off the conveyor belt a little bit.
Yeah,
so don't be discouraged if you're like, I'm in 3 months and I'm freaking out.
And hopefully this wasn't like information overload here for you. But
I do want to have you ask yourself a couple questions to help you get on the right path for yourself for homeschool. And it is, what do you value and what does education mean to you?
Yeah.
Because I will find, and I would think we've talked about this with my husband loving foreign languages, his undergrads in linguistics. So I tried to include foreign language in a lot of times, and I just don't care. Like he cares enough for the both of us. And I'm the one teaching him. And when I'm trying to teach a foreign language, and I'm like, I think you say it like this. I don't know. And I don't really care enough to look it up or listen to it. Like there is no passion behind that.
Right.
And as soon as I just let it go, I was like, oh, I just don't care. And I know people's are like, my husband especially is like, it's so good for their brains. And I'm like, awesome. I cannot wait to see what you do with that. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's beautiful that my husband, we can go to all these different countries and he speaks most of the Romance languages.
It's so awesome.
Hebrew, Greek, like, it's super nerdy, but it's super awesome. And I'm like, that's exciting for you. But I do not value that. But do you want to know what I do value? This, because that's what I'm doing, right? So, and then my second favorite question is, what does education mean to you? Because usually it's not about like being...
We've done a whole episode on this.
Yeah.
I can't remember the title, but I'll figure it out and put it in the show notes because we talked a whole about like finding your why or something like that.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, but those are good questions as like you're detoxing and getting out of this. Like you're building a foundation now. Like you've just destroyed your public school mentality and you've destroyed it. So as you build the foundation, it's going to be really strong if you know like, what do I value and what does education mean to me?
Yeah.
And
I think often, you know, when you're getting into these hard days that come with homeschooling, reminding yourself of why you chose to do it again and again. Because I had to do that often where there were just hard days and I'm like, why? Oh yeah, I know why.
This is why.
There's so many of them now. The longer I do it, there's more reasons. But just reminding yourself of that often helps you on those really hard days.
Yes, I had posted years ago on Instagram, a year ago, about how much school for each grade.
Oh, yeah.
And preschool, like 10-ish minutes. Kindergarten, like 30-ish minutes. Like, it's super low. Mm-hmm. And there's somebody who did a whole report on how much schooling kids actually get. They said if you take in the time that they have to stand in line to go from room to room, you take in time for assemblies, you take out all these things,
the recess and the lunch and the discipline of the kids.
Yes, it boils, and then having to wait. Like somebody's not getting it, so you have to wait for that kid or whatnot. And it boils down to like a ridiculous number of
like an hour and a half to 2 hours of school.
I don't think it's that much. I think it's like 45 minutes.
Is it really? Wow.
Yes, of like, hey, a carnival, hey, a festival. Like, and I'm not saying those things are bad, but if ever you're like, oh, we're not doing school because they're in school.
Because it's not as long as
6 hours, 7 hours, whatever it is.
They're riding the bus for 2 hours.
Yeah, they're riding the bus. They're doing all these things. And so, like, my preschooler, his school, 5, 10, maybe 15 minutes. Like, if it happens, because he's just there absorbing everything with us. So, cut yourself some slack. Definitely. You're probably doing way more than you realize that you're already doing. Like, it's probably more than enough. Yeah, we're excited. Ask us if you have any other episode requests. We're always happy to do those.
And don't forget to leave us a review.
Yes.
We love those too.
Yeah.
Have a great day.
See you guys.